Sahar Aziz is from the Egyptian American Rule of Law Association and specialises in national security, civil rights and Middle East law. She joins me now live from Austin, Texas in the USA. Thanks for joining us, Ms. Aziz. It seems that reconciliation is way out of the window, but it does leave a very big question mark about how the Muslim Brotherhood and its affiliates, especially NGOs, can now behave in Egypt.
Right. I think this sets a very dangerous precedent because what we've seen is the expansion of this quashing of political dissent from the Muslim Brotherhood now onto liberal and secular groups. And so this vilification and criminalization of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a very old and indigenous group in Egypt, could now spread to other groups like April 6th, like the No to Military Trials, and other secular youth groups.
Of course, we've had contributors to Al Jazeera talking about secular groups, as you've just mentioned, they're also being targeted. Any dissent against the incumbent government is seen as a threat. But yet, if we just come down to brass tacks, the Muslim Brotherhood have a huge impact in the countryside. They do a lot of work through their affiliate groups with the poor. If those NGO groups, if those affiliates are stopped from working, it is the common man, is it not, that's going to be affected?
Absolutely. I think that the biggest losers in this designation are not the political actors that are score settling right now. It is the poor people, the millions of poor people, over 30 million that are below the poverty line or at poverty line in Egypt that receive humanitarian assistance, food, shelter, basic needs from many NGOs who are officially part of the Muslim Brotherhood or associated with it. And so while these high-level political actors engage in score settling, they are increasing the suffering of the average Egyptian and increasing the basis for the revolution in the first place. So it will be interesting to see if all of these poor people who are now denied food and shelter and medical assistance will now become opposition to the government. And so the current government may be digging its own grave politically in the future.
If that is the case, then how do you expect groups like the EU or the United States to react to not only this decision now, but if this civil scenario in Egypt begins to deteriorate?
Well, unfortunately, the international community, particularly the United States, has very little credibility in Egypt right now because it is viewed as hypocritical. The United States set a precedent with its European allies after 2001, where it vilified Islam and Muslims and associated Muslims with terrorism and used that as pretext for torturing Muslim political groups. So Egypt and Egyptians are going to look at the international community and question their credibility and say, who are you to tell us how to protect our national security when you engaged in these very same tactics and this is a sovereignty issue and you do not have the legitimacy to intervene?
Well, of course, that decision has only been made, what, less than 12 hours ago. It'll be interesting to see what the international reaction is. For the moment, Sahar Aziz in Austin, thanks so much for joining us.